Hi, everybody. This is Crystal Proxmire of Oakland County Times. And we're here today with Sanford, who is running for judge of the 47th District Court. How are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you doing today?
Wonderful. Thank you so much for being here. Can you just tell us why you decided to run for judge?
Yes, I've practiced for 23 years. I've served the community, and I wanted to serve the community on a larger scale. I think it's very important to have a judge who understands those that are coming before them and can not only judge impartially and fairly, but to be able to relate to what's going on with them and to provide them the services also that they need.
Can you tell us a little bit about your background and some of the skills you bring to the table?
Yes. So when I went from high school, I went to work for the Department of Army at the United States Army Tank Automotive Command. I was in the clerk and I moved up in administration. And eventually I was a division secretary administrator over a group of other employees. And so that's where I got my administrative skills from. I then went back to school. I got a bachelor's in psychology and sociology while I was working for the Department of the Army, and I graduated from the University of Michigan Dearborn. I wanted to be a lawyer then, but the counselor I had said the market was flooded, and so I went to U of M Ann Arbor and got a master's in social work. And so then I went to work for the Department of Health and Human Services doing foster care abuse and neglect cases, where I met people in some of their most dire moments. And I got to learn a lot about families, the different situations that get families into situations that cause them to come into the court. I ended up being in the court all the time. And, when you're really trying to walk the path of destiny, you'll end up where you're supposed to be. And so I went back to law school, got my Juris Doctorate from Wayne State. I interned at the time with the Chief Judge of Oakland County Circuit Court, who's now retired, Judge Young. And she was a great mentor and showed me everything I needed to do to start my own practice. And so when I passed the bar, I came out and started doing family law, criminal law, probate law. I've done some general civil, and I have done landlord tenant law. So there's nothing in the district court that I have not done. I've done zoning. So there is every area that is dealt with in the district court, I've had experience doing it. And I also had the privilege for 15 years serving as the Oakland County Juvenile Drug Court defense attorney, servicing juveniles with substance abuse and mental health issues.
So, what drew you into the practice of law in the first place?
I always had a desire to advocate for people. I always liked watching the law shows. I would always hear, about people who were being convicted unjustly. And I always wanted to be a criminal lawyer, actually. I wanted to be able to fight for those who could not fight for themselves. And so that's what really drew me. I really just wanted to be an advocate for people.
What are you most proud of in your career so far?
I think because I have been able to fight for the underdog, I have been very successful in my family practice. What I'm very proud of is being a juvenile drug court defense attorney for 15 years, seeing young people in their most dire moments, thinking like they don't have any self-worth, that they're not going to survive, and watching them become clean and sober and moving on through life. And some of them, they're friends with me on LinkedIn. I see them in their careers, and to know that I had a part of that to encourage them, to help them, is a very proud thing for me.
What are some ways that you've been involved in the community?
So I've done quite a lot of different things. I have, as a member of various churches, I've done free legal aid clinics for the community. I've worked with some of the sororities and fraternities doing free legal aid clinics. When Oakland County Prosecutor's Office started the first expungement clinic, I worked on that. And since then, I've worked on expungement clinics throughout Oakland and Wayne County, servicing individuals, trying to give them a fresh start. And so I've done things like work for Habitat for Humanity. I've worked for the soup kitchen. I've fed the homeless. And so those are some of the things. I was a part of the Renaissance Optimist Club as well. So those are some of the things that I've done in the community.
What do you think will be the hardest part about being a judge?
I think the hardest part, but the part that I'm going to enjoy the most is recognizing it's important to follow the law, but it's also important that every person that comes in front of me knows that they're heard. And you have to follow the law, but you also need to tailor your responses and your decisions that will not only cause them to be, especially in the criminal, I will say, you want to hold them accountable, but you also want to be able to make sure that the sentence is something that is going to aid them in not coming back. And you know, sometimes that makes people upset, but you still have to do what is in the best interest, following the law hand in hand.
How will you know if you're doing a good job?
I think the you know the way that we have to really examine that is not by customer satisfaction, right? Because people will always have something to say. They may not ever be satisfied. What you have to really judge it by is, am I following the law? Am I being impartial? Am I treating every litigant with dignity and respect? Am I allowing people to be heard? And doing those things and following those things is how you really can better measure whether you're a good judge or not.
In this race, there is some competition for the seat. Why should the voters pick you?
I'm asking the voters to pick me for one. You know, many times we see judges that are put on seats that really don't have the life experience of understanding who they're actually serving, right? And I've spent 23 years in the law serving the community, getting to understand those people who come into the system. I have the experience as a social worker as well, dealing with people in their worst moments, understanding why they are here and the needs that they have. I also have the connection to the resources. Many times, judges don't investigate and know all of the resources that are available, but I know those already because I've used them already. And I want to be a judge that makes sure that the resources people need, they receive, that they're heard, that they're treated with dignity and respect, regardless of their race, creed, color, religion. It does not matter. We need to treat people with respect. And many times I see that that's something that doesn't always necessarily happen.
If voters want more information about you and your campaign, where can they go?
They can go to my website, which is www.sanfordforjudge.com. I'm also on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. And the wonderful thing about, if they go to my website, there is a part where they can literally send me a message. And I've had some do that already. And if you send me a message, you have a question, I will respond to you.
Perfect. Well, thank you for taking the time to talk with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.